inside your company right now. There's a process that looks faster than it used to. Fewer steps, less manual work, cleaner output. On paper, it's more efficient, but the people inside that process are starting to feel something else. They're checking things more often, fixing small issues before they spread, doing work that technically shouldn't be necessary anymore, and nobody is reporting it. Because if you look at the system, it's still working. That's the contradiction. A few months ago, a company I worked with automated part of their internal reporting. Data came in, got processed, output was generated automatically. What used to take hours now took minutes. But a few weeks later, one of the team leads noticed something small. Two reports, based on similar inputs, looked slightly different. Not wrong, just inconsistent. They flagged it, then moved on, because nothing was obviously broken. A week later, it happened again. So they started double-checking certain reports just to be safe. Then someone else on the team started doing the same. No one told them to. They just adapted. And the system kept running. From the outside, nothing changed. But inside the process, efficiency was quietly disappearing. That's the part most companies miss. Because artificial intelligence doesn't remove work, it redistributes it. And a lot of that work becomes invisible. This is an artificial intelligence clone, by the way, on purpose. Because this is exactly how we use artificial intelligence inside our own work. I run Data Wonder. We build artificial intelligence systems for companies in insurance, accounting, healthcare. And this pattern shows up more often than people expect. Here's what makes this tricky. When companies measure efficiency, they measure what the system does. They look at processing time, throughput, cost per task, and those numbers improve. So the conclusion is, this is working. But those metrics don't capture what people are doing around the system. And that's where the hidden problems start. Because people don't just follow systems, they adapt to them, always. And when something feels slightly off, they compensate. Without documenting it, without escalating it, because it's faster to fix it yourself than to question the system. That's where it breaks. Because now you have two realities. The system reality, where everything looks efficient, and the operational reality, where people are doing extra work to keep that efficiency intact. And those two drift apart over time. A few months ago, an accounting firm I worked with ran a process review. Everything looked stable, no major issues. But when they sat down with the team, they noticed something unexpected. People had built their own pre-checks before sending work into the artificial intelligence system. Not formally, just habits. If it looks like this, fix it first. If it comes from this client, double check it. None of this was part of the design, but it had become part of the process. And when they mapped it out, the actual time saved by the artificial intelligence was significantly lower than reported. Not because the artificial intelligence failed, but because the system around it changed. That's the hidden problem. Efficiency looks clean on dashboards, but messy in reality. And that gap grows, because the more people adapt, the less visible the real process becomes. And once you lose visibility, you lose control. Decision-making, because leadership is now making decisions based on incomplete information. They see improved metrics, so they assume we can scale this. We can remove more capacity. We can automate more. But those decisions are based on a version of the process that no longer exists. And that's when things start to break at scale. Not immediately, but gradually. Because now the system is under more pressure, while the hidden work keeps increasing, and nobody is tracking it. That's the dangerous part, because it feels like progress, but it's fragile. This is why artificial intelligence-driven efficiency can be misleading. Not because the gains are fake, but because they're incomplete. They only show part of the system, the visible part, not the human layer around it. And that human layer is where most of the complexity lives. So what actually fixes this? Not better models, not more automation, visibility. You need to understand how people are interacting with the system, where they're adding steps, where they're compensating, where they don't fully trust the output, because those signals tell you where the system is actually breaking before it becomes obvious. And someone needs to own that. Not just the system performance, but the real process, as it actually happens, not as it's designed. Because artificial intelligence doesn't simplify organizations, it shifts complexity. And if you don't track where that complexity goes, you don't actually become more efficient, you just become more opaque. And that's a dangerous place to operate from. I'm curious if you've seen this. A system that looks efficient, but feels heavier to the people using it, where the numbers say one thing, but the team experiences something else. And if that's happening inside your company, and you want to understand where that gap is coming from, you can book a free call with me.